It's pretty clear that game developers have come full circle. Back in the 80s and early 90s, the hardware forced them to perfect the side-scrolling platformer. But once 3D became an element to toy with, that's where the world went. Now that they've had their fill of huge explorable open world environments, we're seeing a trend that brings us back to game designs that made us fall in love with video games. New Super Mario Bros., Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Limbo, Super Meat Boy, strict side-scrollers that embrace the limitations of the perspective enforced on them while still utilizing the tech at their disposal. Now, add Kirby's Epic Yarn to the list, a game that creates an incredibly unique and clever world of fabric. Epic Yarn style actually enhances the traditional gameplay mechanics. Kirby's Epic Yarn features an environment built entirely out of materials you'd find in an arts and crafts store. Quilt patterns and fabric form the world, and yarn, string, and buttons are the building blocks of all the creatures, our hero included. The Puffball hero Kirby, while foraging for food and inhaling Yin Yarn's metamato by mistake, is sucked into Patchland, a world made entirely of yarn and textiles. In Patchland, Kirby discovers another yarn character named Prince Fluff is under attack by a foe. Kirby attempts to inhale him but fails. Using his new powers, Kirby turns into a car and escapes with Prince Fluff. Now, Kirby has to traverse levels and defeat Yin Yarn. You know, usual Kirby stuff. In traditional Kirby fashion, the game is set up on a world map where Kirby must open up doorways in order to access the many levels he must traverse throughout his adventure. While only the first level doorway is open when Kirby first reaches a new area, he'll be able to open up additional doors by earning special patches as he completes levels. After completing a certain number of regular levels, the door to the boss will be opened and must be completed in order to move on to the next area. While the world map and doorway system, familiar for most long-time Kirby fans, remains intact and well implemented, the gameplay is drastically different. Instead of inhaling enemies and taking over their special powers, Kirby is armed with a piece of yarn that can be used as a whip. You control the game by holding the Wii remote on its side, and a quick press of the one button will extend the yarn whip and unravel any enemies or yarn blocks where they stand. You can even hold down the one button in order to grab an enemy, wrap them up in yarn, and carry them above your head, allowing you to use them as a projectile for taking out certain objects and enemies. Kirby also has a couple of other built-in abilities that range from turning into car for a dash move to transforming into a parachute in order to float short distances. Your ultimate goal will be to reach the bell at the end of each level, and along the way, you'll have the opportunity to locate and pick up 2 hidden treasures and a musical CD containing the musical track that plays during that particular level. You'll also be able to pick up a wealth of beads strung around each level that can be used to earn special medals upon completion of the level. The more beads you end up with, the better medal you'll earn, and since you don't really die when you take damage, the game instead penalizes you by stripping you of the beads and stars you've collected up to that point. But you'll always be able to check the bead gauge at the top of the screen to see how many you've collected and what medal you're currently at. The medal system is also a nice incentive to go back and replay levels in order to earn better medals and pick up treasures you missed the first time through. The developers even enhanced the traditional action with some really cool transformation elements that shift the core game mechanics to ensure that the gameplay doesn't get stale. You'll constantly find areas where you turn into a dolphin to swim and jump with incredible grace and fluidity, or change into a UFO to suck up enemies and blast the entire screen with an impressive energetic jolt. You'll transform into a fire truck to douse flames with water streams made of yarn, or change into a spaceship to enter a classic side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. There's even a little nod to the Nintendo DS Kirby's Canvas Curse, with the train transformation where players paint tracks down for Kirby to follow. There are a host of additional elements that further round out the package. If you've got another player on hand, you can take on any of the game's levels in a 2-player cooperative mode that allows a second player to take control of Prince Fluff. While this is a good way to get another player involved, it does tend to make an already easy game even easier. Another interesting twist involves the game's Kuti Court. Here you're given your own room that you can decorate and furnish with items you pick up in levels or bought, not to mention a host of other rooms that you can fix up in order to attract tenants. These tenants will offer you special challenges in levels you've already completed, including gathering up a specified number of beads or locating hidden characters within a set time limit. They tend to feel more like mini-games than actual levels, but they can be very challenging for those who take the time to complete them. The game will even allow you to take snapshots of certain areas of the game that can be saved to your photo album and shared with friends. Even with the completely new gameplay, the developers have still managed to create a wonderfully responsive set of controls that are not only very well executed but offer up a huge degree of variety. The vehicle's transformations only add to this variety and tend to fit in perfectly with the type of level they're included in, rather than feeling like tack-on additions. This lack of difficulty is most apparent in boss fights. Giant beings fill the screen, but it's hard to be scared of their wrath when it's impossible to die. Kirby's Epic Yarn is an incredible looking game that really puts the Nintendo Wii's strengths up front. It may not be an HD capable system and its 3D capabilities might be a generation or two behind its console competitors, but thanks to the style's restrictive camera and side-scrolling environment, the team at AntDude Feel, the same guys that works on the impressive Wario Land Shake It a few years back, pull up a visually impressive game that's something unlike anything we've ever seen in a video game. Kirby and his second player partner Prince Flop animate with incredible fluidity because they're just a loop piece of fluffy yarn. Environments are gorgeous because they're constructed of photorealistic swatches of felt and fabric that move, flow, and wrinkle realistically when players tug and pull on the background. As if the stunning visual performance wasn't enough, the musical score of the game is equally amazing. The overly cute theme of the game carries over into the soundtrack, and the sugary sweet musical tracks only seem to get better as you progress into the game. It's also uncanny how well each track fits in with the look and feel of the level they're found in. There are even a few Christmas-themed tracks to give the game a little holiday spirit. The narrator tends to overdo it a bit as he lays out the game's storyline, but it does tend to fit in with the game's lighthearted theme, so it's difficult to complain too much. Kirby's Epic Yarn makes it clear from the get-go that it is an adorable game that will put a smile on your face through its outstanding visual design, but the delights go much deeper than the delectable aesthetic. Clever levels with varied objectives make it a blast to play, and though the main story is way too easy, there are at least challenging minigames to unlock for those who want to test their reflexes. A lack of punishment shouldn't keep you away from this great platform. It takes quite a few hours to pass every stage and find every secret, and every moment you spend in this world is an utter delight. Kirby's Epic Yarn is a great platformer that goes far beyond its eye-catching visual to deliver an irresistible adventure that's difficult to put down. That voice crack though. I really like the arts and craft concept for this game. It's really cool. There's nothing like it. Oh,